Oh, wow. Hey, much love and respect. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be waking up with Analog. We're in this good brother's Twitter page. Great information, a lot of incredible findings here in old newspapers, a lot of incredible stories and reports, a lot of unbelievable, strange findings here in America. We're going to read these with fresh eyes, with the knowledge that we have already learned in this channel, knowing this is the true old world. Again, this is just going to be more and more correlation. Some incredible findings here. So thanks again to the brother waking up with Analog for doing this hard work in the background and sharing all this with us. Again, twitter.com, waking up with Analog. Make sure you follow the brother and support what he's doing. Got another news report here. Again, we're waking up with Analog, all right, Twitter page. This is from Nebraska, 1894. Let's see what it says. Pulse of Western progress. Bold discovery at Salina Canyon, Utah. Causes a rush. 3 miles of rich placer ground. Hardships of the desert. A delirious wanderer rescued and his companion found in his last slumber. Northwestern News. Says here, monster. Prehistoric reptile, huh? A monster, a reptile? Huh? Up in the mountains about 5 miles west of this town is a curious formation in solid limestone, consisting of a circular hole, having a diameter of about 3 feet, and an unknown depth which has long been regarded as the crater of a prehistoric geyser, says the Townsend messenger. Mr. J.P. Hardy, a well-known mining man, determined to explore it for the purpose of prospecting the rock for mineral. After descending about 80 feet, the passage was found to be blocked by debris washed in from above, which after cleaning away disclosed the entrance to a vast underground cavern. As soon as he could accustom his sight to his surroundings, Mr. Hardy found himself in the midst of one of the grandest sights ever beheld by the eye of man. On every hand, stately columns caused by the dripping of water through the limestone rose from the floor in graceful form to meet a counterpart descending from the roof. A partial exploration of a few hundred yards brought him to what appeared to be a line of white barrel hoops standing upright and extending away into the darkness farther than his one candle would shed its rays. Judge of his astonishment to find on examination that he had discovered the petrified skeleton of an enormous reptile, perfect in every detail, from head to tail. The bones of the head showed plainly that the monster was well equipped for aggressive warfare. You starting to hear what he's describing here? We just talking about dracons. curved fangs hinged to the upper jaw, 18 inches long, lay in place in what was once a huge mouth, which could open easily 4 feet. Judging from the articulation, the monster lay in a nearly straight line, and Mr. Handy found upon pacing it off that it measured upward of 120 feet. About 50 feet from the head lay a number of bones that appeared to belong to the skeleton, in which Mr. Hardy concluded were the wings. Okay, so this huge reptile had wings with armor, right, and teeth. They're not talking about a pterodactyl. They're not talking about a pterodactyl. All right, listen, he's talking about literally a dragon. The way he's describing it, this is a real dragon skeleton. All right, he said it had wings. Concluded there were the wings. Further examination disclosed the presence of legs. Okay, it has legs, though only one of these was in good condition. Judge Watson, who has read much on prehistoric mammalia and fossils, states that this is probably the only perfect specimen of a dragon in existence. A dragon in existence, a real dragon, okay? All right, big major drop, Dracan, all right? Monster. They found a dragon, they even admitted it, okay? Judge Watson, he said that this is the only perfect specimen of a dragon in existence. There's probably more, right? But they're hiding all of them. Where did this one go? Uh-oh, look what happened. The Smithsonian Institution has been informed of the find, and we expect we'll have a representative here in a few days. Okay, that's what happened. The Smithsonian came and they hid it. So you don't know about it. They found a dragon skeleton, full one. They want to fool you with this dinosaur talk, right? They build all these dinosaurs with one tooth. None of them, a lot of them ain't real. A lot of Dracons they're hiding. So the Smithsonian showed up in a few days, huh? That's why we don't know about it. Mr. Hardy refused one offer of $20,000 for his find and states that nothing short of $50,000 will purchase it. He has been trying to keep the discovery secret in order to be prepared for the rush that is sure to follow its announcement, but we are here to write up the news, and our readers may look for more disclosures as the cavern is further explored. Alright, so what happened to the cavern? There was probably more disclosures. The Smithsonian probably hid it. Continuing here, this is another news report. This is from West Virginia. It says Mexican discoveries from 1889. Says here, Mexican discoveries. Additional evidences of ancient civilization are found in that country by explorers, splendid roads, and magnificent buildings left by an extinct race. Important archaeological discoveries. Says here, City of Mexico, August 2nd. Recently returned explorers from the state of Chiapas confirm and add to the remarkable reports concerning important archaeological discoveries. A fine broad paved road built by prehistoric inhabitants has been traced from Tonala down into Guatemala, alright, from Mexico to Guatemala, and thence in a curve up again into Mexico, terminating at Palenque, alright, connecting Palenque. Look at these ancient roads, alright, they're finding these now with the lighter technology. All along this road are still to be seen the remains of ruined cities. Any careful estimate of the population of these places is about 30 million. 30 million, listen. On that part of the road near Palenque, the ruins are of a great magnitude. Houses 4 and often 5 stories high have been found in the depths of the forest, alright? Houses 5 stories high, alright? Buildings. Many of these houses are pyramidal in form, and so covered are some of them with vegetable mold that large trees are growing from the roofs, alright? That's how all these things are. There's trees growing on top of them. In some of the houses, great employment has been made of stone beams of tremendous weight, and architecture indicates a high degree of scientific attainments, alright? These were not savages. And these people are writing about it, right? In the 1800s, they found this stuff in Mexico. When they were first reporting it, they were like, wow. All right, so we got a continuation of this. It says here, extinct races. Remarkable discoveries of buried cities in the Republic of Mexico. August 2nd. Explorers in the state of Chiapas confirmed the reported remarkable discoveries of archaeological matter. Roads built by prehistoric inhabitants were found and the ruins of cities with an estimated total population of 30 million were discovered. The houses are of a pyramidal form of architecture and indicate a high degree of scientific attainment. The carved male and female figures dug up are plainly of Egyptian style. Alright? The locality was undoubtedly densely populated. It was densely populated. Egyptian, so-called Egyptian style. This is the original. Okay, this is where the style originated. They copied us. 30 million inhabitants, these prehistoric roads. It's all being found today with their LiDAR technology. They're finding all this stuff that was reported in the 1800s today with their LiDAR technology in the forest. Continuing, we got another news report here, and this time we got giants again. Find bones of giants in Great Cave in California, 1901. Again, it says find bones of giants in Great Cave. Exploring party makes strange discovery near Butte. Remains of the prehistoric people in underground abode. Theory is advanced that some seismic disturbance closed exits to the cavern and imprisoned the ancients. Wow. Says here Butte, Montana, December 8, a new cave that gives promise of developing into the most wonderful of its kind in the known world has been discovered in the mountains 48 miles east of Butte, in the Jefferson Canyon. Its extent is as yet unknown, though it has been explored for a distance of 10 miles and to a depth of about 800 feet. The entrance to the cave, which is near the track of the Northern Pacific Railway and about 1,600 feet above the bed of the river, was discovered a few weeks ago by a hunter, and the cave has just been explored by a party headed by J.W. Gilbert, a newspaper writer of Butte. Gilbert returned today after an absence of a week with evidence of his discoveries. Several skeletons were found in one of the many rooms, and many articles and utensils of stone and copper were lying about. Some of these have been brought out. The skeletons are of persons of gigantic stature, and the belief of Gilbert is that the cave was the abode of prehistoric people, and that further exploration will bring to light proof of this fact. A theory is that by a sudden change and disturbance of the earth, the entrance to the ancient home was closed, and the inhabitants walled up and left to die. Alright, so they found giants over here, okay? Continuing, it says here, a prehistoric cemetery, Nebraska, 1899. A prehistoric cemetery, Workman Terrace in King Hill, an old landmark of northwestern Missouri, which is to be converted into a residence suburb of St. Joseph. All right, so it's going to become a suburb. They made a suburb, right? But listen to what they found there. Have unearthed a prehistoric cemetery, the remains of a race of dwarves, okay? A race of dwarves, right? Or people would call pygmies or little people, not allied with any tribe known to have inhabited this territory and unaccounted for by Indian legendary. Repose on the summit of King Hill, right? So they found this large cemetery there. A feature remarkable in itself and especially marked in connection with the dwarf fish remnants of prehistoric man. Found in this summit is the discovery of a human bones, evidently those of a giant, probably more than 7 feet tall and big boned, alright? They also found bones of a giant more than 7 feet tall. Low flat heads with small intelligence and marked animal propensities characterize this people. Heavy jaws and strong, well-preserved teeth carried the records of their lives forward. Brutes, human but inhuman, self-reliant, they are savages of a lower order than any we know today. Dash the hijack. Yet they honor their dead. Shells such as are found on the banks of many inland streams, plentiful on the sandbars of the Missouri, overlooked by King Hill, and stones of unusual hues, worthless in the commercial marts of today. The playthings of children were deposited in the graves. Chicago Record. All right. So they found a cemetery of small people, dwarves they're calling it, and they also found giant bones here in Missouri. Continuing here, we're just waking up with Analog Twitter page. This is another news report here. A wonderful ethnological discovery here in Ohio. This is from 1871. Wonderful ethnological discovery. Egyptian temples and ceremonies in Arizona. Arizona. Remnants of a prehistoric race. Another one telling us the same thing. The New York World of Sunday has a 5-column letter from a correspondent at Santa Fe, which, if only half of it be true, will set all the ethnologic societies and literary bodies throughout the Christendom agog with wonder and speculation. The letter purports to describe the adventures and discoveries of a certain plucky miner from the Rocky Mountains known as Mountain Jim, who in company with a man named Tim Jennings started from Denver last September in a search of a mining country which should yield better fortune than that to which they had been accustomed. Pushing forward day after day, meeting with constant disappointments in their hopes of finding paying loads, they at last found that they had gotten beyond the Colorado and Utah boundaries and had entered upon a country which wore so forbidding an aspect that even their Indian guides refused to accompany them further. It appears, however, that although the country furnished neither grass nor water nor any living thing, save insects and reptiles, the devil-may-care spirit which frontier experience is apt to provoke still drove them forward. They had both soared to go on until they found something, and on they went alone, stumbling forward into a vast arid waste in which they wandered for several days. They at last found themselves imprisoned in a desert more malignant still. The upshot of it was that their mules died of starvation, and the agony of thirst drove poor Jennings mad, and that in insane paroxysm he fell over a precipice and was dashed to pieces. After enduring incalculable horrors, Mountain Jim, now utterly alone and stumbling on like a man in a dream, suddenly perceived a vast black gulf that seemed to open down into the core of the earth, and while yet he stood transfixed by terror, the pulverized soil of the arid mesa sank under his feet, and he slid down 2,000 feet into a valley in the midst of the desert 40 or 50 miles in width, enclosed in an unscalable and unbroken vertical rim. Continuing here, it says here we got a news report from DC, Ruins Cover Village, 1923. It says here, Ruins Cover Village, Albuquerque, New Mexico, October 20. Ruins of an ancient Pueblo Bonito, New Mexico, which revealed to geologists a prehistoric underground settlement, are declared to be only the upper story of still another buried village. All right, underground, but they only found the top of it, the top of the building. Neil Judd, director of excavations of the National Geographic Society, has announced that diggings disclosed the second underground city covers at least 3¼ acres. Underground city, 3¼ acres. This is from the National Geographic Society. All right, this is stuff they didn't tell us. Among the dwellings found in the Pueblo, Mr. Judd said there was a building of 800 rooms. You hear that? One of the buildings had 800 rooms. This is an underground city in New Mexico. National Geographic's letting you know. All right, 800 rooms in one of these buildings, of which 500 were on one floor. 500 rooms in one floor. Many of the underground dwellings stand 4 stories high, he said. 4 stories high, and they're underground still. They're still not even above ground, and they're already tall. Do you guys hear this? Incredible. They never told us any of this stuff they found. Continue with another report coming out of Nebraska. Says here, prehistoric find, 1891. Prehistoric find, the remains of the king of mound builders dug up in Ohio, Chillicothe, Ohio, November 17th. Mr. Warren K. Moorhead and Dr. Crescent, who have been prosecuting excavations here for the past 3 months in the interest of the World's Fair. All right, in the interest of the World's Fair, huh? The World's Fair? Why? Have just made one of the richest finds of the century in the way of prehistoric remains. These gentlemen have confined their excavation to the Hopewell Farm, 7 miles from here, upon which are located some 20-odd Indian mounds. On Saturday, they were at work on a mound 500 feet in length, 200 feet wide, and 28 in height. At the depth of 10 feet near the center of the mound, they exhumed the massive skeleton of a man, which was encased in a veritable copper armor. All right, so another giant who had copper armor. The head was covered by an oval-shaped copper cap. The jaws had copper moldings, and the arms were dressed in copper. Copper plates covered the chest and stomach. On each side of the head, on protruding sticks, were wooden antlers ornamented with copper. The mouth was stuffed with genuine pearls of immense size, but much decayed by the ravages of time. Around the neck was a necklace of bears' teeth set with pearls. At the side of the male skeleton was also found a female skeleton, the two supposed to be man and wife. It is estimated that the bodies were buried where they were found fully 600 years ago. Messrs. Moorhead and Crescent consider this find one of the most important that they have yet made, and believe that they have at last found the king of the mound builders, the king of the mound builders. He was decked out, all these pearls and stuff, even in his teeth. He had the grilled pearls. Wow. Then we continue here. We got a news report coming out of Minnesota, 1899. It says here, when men had horns, workmen unearthed skeletons of two prehistoric giants. Springfield, Ohio. December 20. While workmen were taking gravel out of a pit near Enon, they unearthed two skeletons of human beings. One of the skulls contained 4 horns, all right, 2 on each side of the head. The horns are uniform in size and little more than 2 inches long. They are located directly above and below the ears. Those above turn upward and those below turn downward. There is a bad fracture on the right side, indicating that this queer being was probably killed with some sharp instrument. It is thought from the size of the skull that it belonged to a man who was a giant of some prehistoric race. All right, this is what they found, giants with horns here in America. All right, and we continue. More giants. Says here, mummy of a giant, DC 1895. This is the drawing. I know I had this in my cover in the part 1, but it was, because it got pretty long, I had to cut it into 2 parts, and actually it's going to be more than 2 parts. But here's the drawing they had of this, a giant, okay? Mummy of a giant, body of a man, 9 feet high, dug up in California. Biggest human being on record, though somewhat shrunk since he was alive. Written for the Evening Star. The corpse of the biggest man that ever lived has been dug up near San Diego, California. At all events, there is no satisfactory record in ancient or modern history of any human being nearly so tall. The mummy, for in such a condition the remains were found, is that of a person who must have been about 9 feet high in life. This makes allowance for a shrinkage, which may be pretty closely calculated. The cadaver has been carefully inspected and measured by Professor Thomas Wilson, curator of the Department of Prehistoric Anthropology in the Smithsonian Institution, and other scientists, okay? It's confirmed. See, they hit this stuff. This is analyzed by their scientists. It was confirmed. The tape line even now registers the length from heel to top of head at 8 feet 4 inches at least. The mummy is that of an Indian and is almost certainly prehistoric, though its age cannot be determined with any sort of accuracy. Historical records of the part of California where it was found go back for at least 250 years, and they make no mention of any man of gigantic stature. How much older the body may be must be left open to conjecture. Its preservation is no matter for surprise. In that arid region, the atmospheric conditions are such that a corpse buried in the dry season might very well become perfectly desiccated before the arrival of the rains, and thus be rendered permanently proof against decay. The body was found in a cave by a party of prospectors. It is in an excellent state of preservation. The spine has shrunk considerably, being thus reduced in length by reason of the drying of the cartilage between the vertebrae. The knees are somewhat bent. Over the head are the remnants of a leather hood, which seems to have been part of a garment used for the purpose of a shroud. The man was well advanced in years, as is shown by the worn condition of the teeth. Okay, this is what they found in California. Okay, again here, this article from 1899, Washington. Prehistoric maize seed found in an Indian mound planted in Egypt. Some queer-looking corn having a mysterious origin is on exhibition in this city. 2 years ago, some men near Fairfield, Illinois, while excavating an old Indian mound, found encased in a cemented stone jar several hundred grains of some vegetable bearing a striking resemblance to corn, although it was at least several hundred years old. The grain was in a perfect state of preservation. One of the men became interested in the queer-looking cereal and planted it on his farm near Fairfield. Not many of the grains germinated, but what did prove a novelty both in color and in size of the stalks. The stalks grew colossally large and tall, with thick leaves of a dark green color, suggestive of the fossiliferous age. The farmer seeded several acres to the new cereal this year and was astounded at the result. The yield was twice as bountiful as the standard variety of corn grown on the same ground, and the weight of the corn was nearly phenomenal. One ear weighing nearly twice as much as the average ear of white corn. Throughout the fall drought that prevailed over all Egypt, the leaves of this new Indian maize remained phenomenally green. Some of the corn was put on exhibition in this city, where it is attracting great attention. It is of a deep copper color, resembling the white variety. When lightly parched, there are 16 rows of kernels to each ear, averaging 25 grains to the row. The grains are usually large and of a sweet, palatable flavor. Alright, so do you understand what they are saying here? They found an ancient seed of corn in an Indian mound. They planted it, grew many acres of it, and it gave so much corn. It was plentiful, it was large, it was ancient, planted in Egypt. Alright, we continue. We got here a news report from Missouri, 1838, from 1838. Says here, mining region of Missouri. The St. Louis Argus states that the celebrated mountain of magnetic iron in that state has an elevation 350 feet above the surrounding plain and is 1.5 miles across its summit. The ore of which this mountain may be said to be substantially composed yields 80% pure metal. If it be magnetic, as it said, what a stupendous battery this Lord of Davenport's electromagnetic machine! It would drive all the factories the prairies could hold, and all the steamers that could float on the Mississippi. No engines, no fuel, no coal mines would be wanted. You hear that? What would become of Fulton and Mock Chunk? In every direction for miles around, besides iron ore, are found plumbago and sulphuret of lead, and 5 miles south is a magnificent pyramidal mountain of the nacreous oxide of iron 300 feet high and a base of 1.5 miles in circumference. Let that stand for Egypt's sake, a Pompey's pillar in nature's flower garden. This pyramid is not in plates, but huge masses of several tons weight, yields also 80%. Copper is also found in Missouri, and its wonderful lead mines all the world know. The Pine Ridge and its region furnishes that lofty timber in abundance, many of the trees being 90 feet high and 4 feet diameter, and Washington County is a perfect bed of metallic treasures: lead, gold, silver, copper, rust, chalk, black lead and brimstone, cornelian and other precious stones, freestone, limestone, grindstone, and burstone. St. Genevieve County has numerous quarries of magnificent marble and vast caverns of beautiful white sand resembling snow, and is much prized by the Pittsburgh people in the manufacture of flint glass. A railroad is talked of from the mines to the coal regions of near St. Louis. When we contemplate the mineral wealth in our country, we are lost in amazement. All right, you hear that? All the resources here in the Americas. But you got a whole mountain, a battery mountain. Continuing right here, it says here, ancient miners of Texas. This is from 1887, this news report. It says gold in Texas. The Houston Telegraph says that preparations are in progress in all parts of the state for a grand expedition to the gold region that has been discovered in northern Texas, not far from the ruins of the celebrated city of Grand Quivira. All right, Quivira, the golden city, cities of gold. Yo, the 7 cities of Cibola. Immense excavations are shown along the foot of the mountains, and the ruins of vast cities indicate that these mines were once worked by millions of people. The geographic formations of this region are similar to those of the gold regions of California. All right, ruins of these cities. These were worked by millions of people, these mines, all right, for many, many years. Much gold over here. Continuing here, we have a report here from 1877. Very interesting report here. 1877 has something to do with the Ark of the Covenant, some lost Hebrew scrolls. All right, let's take a look. It says here, Tupelo, Mississippi, August 4th, 1885. And coming to Hamilton, the shire town of Marion County, Alabama, the other day I was reliably informed and greatly interested in a wonderful discovery recently made by one of the citizens of the county, Mr. J.W. Haddon. A few days since, while out hunting, Mr. Haddon saw in a cluster of bushes a snow-white fawn, which he stealthily approached. Hoping to capture a prize, the fawn almost allowed him to pick it up, when it suddenly ran off a short distance and again stopped. Haddon again approached, when the fawn again retreated. This course was pursued by Haddon and the fawn until they reached a high bluff overlooking Budahatchee River. Interesting name, right? Budahatchee River. Some 4 miles east of Pierce Mills, when the fawn suddenly disappeared over the edge of the bluff. Upon coming up, Haddon peered over the bluff, when to his astonishment he saw the fawn standing on a narrow bench, hundreds of feet below, near the root of a large spruce pine recently blown up. After much difficulty he succeeded in reaching the spot where the fawn was last seen, but the fawn was not in the range of his vision. Upon looking around, he discovered that the pine, in being uprooted, disclosed to view a circular orifice in the bluff some 3 feet in diameter. Prompted by curiosity and desire to catch the fawn, he provided himself with a torch and entered the cavern, and made a discovery that will not only immortalize himself and be a source of fabulous wealth, but will be of immense value and interest to the scientific men and biblical scholars of the world. Stretched out at full length upon the cave's rocky floor lay the petrified bodies of 3 human beings, 2 males and 1 female. An oblong box of curious and antique design, 2 feet long, 18 inches wide and 16 inches deep, besides many other curiosities of smaller dimensions. Surprised and terror-stricken, Haddon withdrew from the cavern and returned to his home. The next day, Haddon returned with a trusted friend to the scene of his discoveries and removed the petrified bodies and other articles from the cave. The box, also petrified, was carefully removed from its resting place and broken and found to contain a small earthen jar, a large roll of parchment, and a brass rod. Now the mystery is to what race of people did these bodies belong and how came them there? The parchment manuscripts are undoubtedly written in the Hebrew language. Alright, you guys hear this? You see what they found with these bodies and these scrolls and a petrified box? They found these manuscripts that were undoubtedly written in the Hebrew language, Hebrew here in ancient America, Alabama. Many theories have been advanced by our people, but the most plausible one that I have heard is that the bodies are of Hebrew origin, that the box is the long lost Ark of the Covenant, the rod, the veritable Aaron's, the jar, the pot of manna, and the parchment manuscript, the 7 lost books of the Old Testament. All right, and where is this discovery? They hid this, all of this stuff. Again, this was in Alabama in a cave. All right, we continue. This is from 1833, this article right here, regarding the Mandans Indians. Some 1,500 miles up the river Missouri, above the Mounds, will be found the Mandans. These people, as well as their neighbors below them, have some very peculiar religious notions. Mr. Catlin, who visited them the last summer, has given very interesting accounts of their religious ceremonies, customs, and traditions. We've read Catlin's books, all right? Of the latter, he has given one specimen, which contains more of the wonderful than any of the visions of the seer Joseph Smith, and we believe quite as worthy of credence. Okay, the Sangano Journal says you got to listen to this. Now, in parentheses, this is according to the Mandans, right? It says, according to their traditions, they were the first people in the world, and they originally lived inside the earth. They say that a vine had grown from one of their cornfields to a very great height through a hole in the earth, and one of their young men climbed up and until he came out on the top of the earth where the Mandan village now stands. All right, you hear that? Sounds like Jack and the Beanstalk. Where the Mandan village, that he looked around and admired the beautiful prairies and country about him, saw many buffaloes, killed one and found it good to eat, that he returned and related what he had seen. When a number of them went and witnessed the same things, amongst the throng who was endeavoring to climb up was a very large fat woman who was advised not to go up, but whose curiosity led her to attempt it notwithstanding. As soon as she had got an opportunity, when she had got part of the way up, the vine broke under her weight and let her down. She was disgraced for being the cause of a great calamity, which could never be averted, for none could ascend nor could those descend who had gone up. They commenced the Mandan village where it now stands, and the remainder of them are living underground to this day. Wow, you hear that? So they blamed an overweight person, I guess. You know, that's probably a silly story. May have some kind of significance in a different way, but very interesting as you see the Mandans saying they were coming from the underground. So we continue with the Mandan Indians, another article here from 1835 regarding the Mandan religion. The Indians were Jews, it says. Let's go right into it. And it says here, Mandan religion. The Indians were Jews. Mr. Catlin, of whose portfolio on Indian portraits we have frequently spoken, is, we perceive, lecturing at Mobile. We trust he will soon make his way to the northern cities. Indians are no rarities, but rather a nuisance to the people about there. To us they are becoming subjects of historical interest, and therefore magnified in importance. If the following related by Mr. Catlin, as we find it in the Mobile Commercial Register, be a true narrative, it is certainly a most extraordinary and unexpected confirmation of the truths of the Bible. The ark must therefore have landed on Chimborazo or the Alleghenies. All right, you hear that? They're saying the ark, Noah's ark. All right, we got a future videos. A lot of people sending me some interesting info about this area, somewhere in North Carolina. It's something to do with Noah. All right, so we're gonna look into that. As it says here, the ark must therefore have landed on Chimborazo Boruso or the Alleghanies, and the Indian tribes that once populated this country must have been the descendants of Abraham. The origin of the religious ceremony of the Mandans is both novel and interesting. It is probable that no white man was present at its celebration before Mr. Catlin, and this gentleman who accompanied him in their tradition connected with it of a stranger coming to them from the west, who had saved himself from a great flood and had found land on the mountain in his canoe, has probably been first made known to the white man at that visit. All right, that's where they got the Noah story from. The season of these ceremonies is the budding of the willow, and the reason assigned is that the bird flew back with a sprig of willow. On being questioned what bird, their reply was the mourning dove. All right, so you see, just like the biblical story, the whole tradition upon which these ceremonies are founded is a matter of speculation for the curious. Through its means, the origin of these wild people may perhaps be traced. All right, lost tribes, huh? All right, we got here a news report coming out of again San Diego, ruins of San Diego. It says here, ruins of an ancient California city. Antiquaries will feel deeply interested in the discovery of vast regions of ancient ruins near San Diego, and within a day's march of the Pacific Ocean, at the head of the Gulf of California, or the ancient Red Sea, right? The Red Sea. Portions of temples, dwellings, lofty stone pyramids, 7 of these within a mile square, and massive granite rings or circular walls, round venerable trees, columns, and blocks of hieroglyphics all speak of some ancient race of men, now forever gone, their history actually unknown to any of the existing families of mankind. In some points, these ruins resemble the recently discovered cities of Palenque, near the Atlantic or Mexican Gulf coast. In others, the ruins of ancient Egypt, all right? Just like the ruins of ancient Egypt. In others, again, the monuments of Phoenicia, or like the monuments of Phoenicia. This is what they're finding here, right? And yet in many features they differ from all that I have referred to, but still they have their uniqueness. I observed that the discoverers deemed them to be antediluvian before the flood, while the present Indians have a tradition of a great civilized nation, which their ferocious forefathers utterly destroyed. The region of the ruins is called by the Indians the Valley of Mystery. Wilworth's Chronicle. We got a news report here. It says here, prehistoric giant, Kentucky, 1894. A prehistoric giant. Elkhart, Indiana, September 27th. A dispatch from Cassopolis, Michigan says that on opening a mound near Diamond Lake Wednesday, a giant of a prehistoric race was unearthed. The bones of the skeleton are well preserved. The lower jaw is immense. An ordinary jawbone fits inside with ease. By measurement, the distance from the top of the skull to the upper end of the thigh bone is 5 feet 5 inches. A doctor who was present stated that the man must have been at least 11 feet high. You guys hear that? 11-foot high giant they found. The mound was partially covered by a pine stump, 3 feet 6 inches in diameter, and the ground showed no signs of ever having been disturbed. An earthen tablet upon which were various unintelligible characters and other relics were found. All right? This is what they're finding here in ancient America. And we continue waking up with analog. A race of giants, Indiana, 1894, newspaper report. A race of giants, tomb containing the skeletons of 22 males, 8 feet high, unearthed. Egan, South Dakota, June 11th. Archaeologists will be interested in a discovery at this place. While digging into a mound, the remains of a race of prehistoric giants were unearthed. A tomb was uncovered, lined with cement. In the tomb's compartments were 22 male skeletons, averaging 8 feet in height. A rude altar and many bronze utensils were exposed. All right, you guys hear that? This is all the stuff, again, they never told us. Look at all the giant reports. we're finding. Shout out to Waking Up with Analog for putting it all together for us. All these giant reports. In this one case, they found 22 males. Six. Continuing, we got another newspaper report coming out of Texas, 1896. Let's see what they found here. Has Joe the Jim Jams? He discovers a skeleton of the mythical race of Cyclops. Buzzards Bay, Massachusetts, July 6. Joseph Jefferson, the actor, has made an astonishing find on the summer place which he has purchased here near that of President Cleveland. In laying out the ground and making alterations, it became necessary to remove a sandhill of a large size. The workmen, while doing this, found the skeleton of a man that filled them with astonishment from its great size. When an attempt was made to lift up the skeleton, it crumbled away, all except the skull. A workman lay down by the side of it, however, and it was estimated that it must have been long. A workman laid down by the side of it, however, and it was estimated that it must have belonged to a man at least 6 feet and 5 or 6 inches in height. The most peculiar thing brought to light, however, when the skull was taken to Mr. Jefferson and by him examined, it was like ordinary skulls, only larger, except that it had, so far as could be seen, no place where the eyes had been. There was one hole in the center of the forehead that might have once served for one eye. This led Mr. Jefferson to believe that he had perhaps discovered the skeleton of a Cyclops. Mr. Booth, who was paying Mr. Jefferson a visit, said, when he saw the wonderful skull, that he and his brother actor had a chance at hand to play Hamlet with a skull such as it had never been played with before. All the scientific gentlemen in the neighborhood had been as unable to give an explanation of the skull as were Mr. Jefferson and Mr. Booth. Mr. Jefferson will no doubt be glad to receive suggestions from men of science that may throw light on the matter. Alright, so they're literally telling you it's not that tall, but they did find that this skull had only space for one eye socket. And we continue here. It says here, Moctezuma Well, Arizona, 1869. Moctezuma Well. Explorations among ancient ruins, the cave dwellers, extraordinary remains of an extinct civilization. Who and what were these people? Correspondence of Cleveland Herald. Camp Verde, Arizona, Terry. September 20, 1869. On Saturday last, the 18th instance, a small party from this post visited a place called Moctezuma Well, situated on Beaver Creek, about 8 miles distant. The well is about 100 yards back from the stream upon a high isolated mesa, and is about 125 yards in width and about 100 yards down to the water, which is surrounded by perpendicular walls of rock. The water is very clear, of a light green or bluish color, and is very strongly impregnated with lime, sulfur, soda, iron, and other minerals. It has no visible inlet, but its outlet is by a subterranean passage at a point nearest Beaver Creek, into which it empties a large volume of water. The whole country between the Sierra Prieta and the Moyallon ranges of mountains is a limestone formation and full of caverns, some of which are quite extensive, as was shown by the results of the day's explorations. All along the bluffs of the Rio Verde and Beaver Creek, wherever these caves exist, they are found to have been the dwelling places of a race of people, I listen to this, in these caves, which has long since passed away, and about which not even mythology tells a tale. It's not even part of our mythology. But it is generally supposed that they are of a very ancient character, as old and probably older than the Aztecs of Mexico. It is certain that the present aboriginal occupants of the territory are of a different race altogether, and from their fierce and warlike character, it is supposed that they are destroyers of this industrious agricultural people, which they seem to have been, and who certainly were deserving of a better fate. An extinct civilization, huh? All right, so real quick, before we go to the primary source in the book, it says Ancient Egyptians in the New World. So real quick, this is the Ancient American magazine that you can actually get the back issues. This is great. I have a lot of these issues. I'm going to buy some more. I share a lot of these with my Patreons. You know, some of these, if you can come here directly and get it yourself, you can get a physical copy, I believe, and a PDF if you like, for a better price. But it has great information and stuff to follow up on if you're interested. But that's what they were referring to. It says in issue number 8 of the Ancient American, G. Thompson or Gunnar Thompson. He's actually very good researcher on maize in ancient Egypt. We got him in my corn videos. He said that he translated a few paragraphs from Mariano Cuevas' 1940 book, Historia de la Nación Mexicana. All right. Now they're saying they found these two things in Mexico, right? In 1914 by Professor M. Gonzalez. He was excavating Mayan ruins in the city of Acajutla in Mexico. The two illustrated statues were uncovered on the male. The headdress, the beard, and the cartouche are all typically Egyptian in style. The male is thought to represent Osiris and the female Isis. All right, take a look at this. You see how what he's holding? You see the, we're going to take a look at it right now. All right, this is from the Library of Princeton. It says here, Theologic Seminary, Historia de la Nación Mexicana, or the History of the Mexican Nation, written by Mariano Cuevas. All right, so we came to the book ourselves. It says that he has doctors and honors in CAS and the University of La Habana, and he's the decano of the Mexican Academy of History. Individuo de número correspondiente de la Real Academia, so he's from the Royal Academy of Spain. He's a member of the Mexican Society and Geographic Society, I guess, and Statistics. And he's from the Estudios de la Ciudad de Mexico, the studies of the Mexican city of Mexico. Member of the Correspondent American Historical Society of Worcester, all right. De la Sociedad Geográfica of Lima, the Geographical Society of Lima in Peru, and the Colombian Historical Society, all right. So this guy is very, very prominent. And what I want to emphasize, the very important thing about this is not even like a conspiracy, because they're not even thinking about it like that. They're not even thinking, oh, we're trying to, it just really looks like Osiris and Isis. They're like, just really, the guy, when he wrote this, he's literally saying that they found so many things that are so similar to Egyptians that they probably had to have come over here. Like, he's literally saying this in this book. But there's no proof of that, right? We just know that Tamari, all that stuff, the true old world, that's over here. All right, so this is on page 14, Historia de la Nación Mexicana. Now look at this. They found these two statues. This is a very bad picture. They probably did this on purpose. This book got scanned very bad. But, you know, I wish we had the original. And this is the writing inside. This is like a replica. This is from the side, A and B. And it says here, Las célebres estatuas de Acajutla, the famous statues of Acajutla. So again, this is another depiction right here, the drawing they have on the other website. You see, Osiris and Isis, Osiris and Isis. So this part that I highlighted right now, all right, I brought that to Google Translate. And I just want you guys to see what it says. It says one more step in this sense. That now the translation is not perfect, so you guys bear with me, but let's just go with it. It says one more step in this sense, a step that already cannot be disregarded to no Americanness. All right, they can't disregard this. Was the happy discovery of two statues a few years ago in August 1914 in a rustic property of the Exmo Archbishop of Saint Salvador, the Reverend Mr. Villoso, near the railway line in the port of Acajutla, all in the Mayan area. Professor Miguel Angel Gonzalez, doing certain excavations in order of the mentioned metropolitan, he found these two beautiful specimens that we reproduce in special illustration, and it is noted that previously many had been found like them. There was actually many like that. Who were despised
and destroyed by ignorant indigenous people of the place. So people didn't really take care of them. In that same place, according to the historian Central American Garcia Palaez, who later he was Archbishop of Guatemala, he existed in ancient times, a very large city and important. All right, so this is very translated. So he's saying that in very ancient times there was a very large city and it was very important there. All right, so I just want to grab some more text. All right, so let's see what it says. All right, just bear with the translation. All right, so it says, be of the later, whatever the fact is that statues, mostly the one that represents the mummy of a male, produces all printing to be no already similar to what Egyptian, but clearly Egyptian. It's not just similar, it's clearly Egyptian. He's letting you know it's clearly Egyptian. Even the hieroglyph looks just like Egyptian. A second inspection, stopping in the locatos in the attachment typical under the chin, and more that nothing in this inscription that both boost within the classic ellipsoid or cartridge on the central part of their bodies brings us out of the doubt. All right, there's no doubt. They're trying to describe, again, this is a translation, but you know, a very bad translation. He's basically saying there's no doubt, man, this is clearly Egyptian. Already in the presence of the alphabetical series, the modic rosette stone and suede, the hieroglyphics of analogous ellipsoids reproduced in the two greatest works of Champollion, we will see that sign by sign in figure 14, all the contents about the inscription of the male statue are also in the aforementioned classical monuments Egyptians. It's all there, it's the same. He's literally telling you it's the same thing. This is crazy right here. This is like big. They hid this, they didn't even publicize this. This is not even mentioned. May check our assertions looking at the figures that we reproduced here and comparing them with two certainly Egyptian food exists in the Cairo Museum, right, on presence of these models. So they're showing the examples in the figure. If it gets tested, the existence of Bliss City, no one can anymore disregard the hypothesis about colonist Egyptians. All right, he's saying they might have been colonist Egyptians here. He's saying nobody can doubt it because this is so Egyptian what he's finding. He's confused. He's like, how did I find an Egyptian statue over here? Egyptians have had to have come over here, but no, this is to marry. All right, to marry. It says, on pain of leaving unexplained a reality, the assumptions of Egyptian influence in our country have been bartered into probabilities on immigration, if not Egyptian, just from a people that was in cultural contact with the country of the pharaohs. He's saying if they're not Egyptian, they gotta have knew the Egyptians or something. They were in contact with them. Trade, all right, all connected, right? Colony. Where's the real colony? Where's the epicenter? Right here in America, or so-called Atlantis, as the Masons call it, right? It's all Mason talk. But again, I just wanted to go back to the book. Again, I just wanted you to see, this is what I copied. This is what is translated. That's what's literally it's saying in the book. It's literally saying that here, guys. Sea de último lo que fuera, el hecho de que las estatuas, mayormente la que representa la momia de un varón, produce toda la impresión de ser no ya parecida a lo egipcio, sino netamente egipcia, not just apparently Egyptian, it's exactly Egyptian. He said, netamente, all right? I'm going to translate netamente to you guys. All right, netamente means clearly in English, clearly. Netamente, neta, purely, entirely Egyptian, clearly Egyptian. Netamente, let's go back, netamente, all right, netamente egipcia. You see it right here. So let's go back to the image. Here it is. Look at that. Osiris and Isis. And we've already done the corn video, right, showing how Isis is really a corn deity. Corn mummified. This corn coming out of Isis is the whole ritual of harvest and everything, new beginning, and Isis the corn mother. All right, they got this from us. These are the corn deities.